Well, greetings and salutations, everybody, and happy Christmas Eve. Welcome to the best movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in my quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. Good to have you guys here. And I'm here flying solo today. We weren't going to do a show today. I gave the crew the day off today and tomorrow, Christmas. The full regular complement of the crew will be back on Thursday, but they got the next couple of days off, and I thought I would just come in and hang out with you guys today as we talk about our favorite things in the world: movies, movie news, TV, and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Good to have you guys here on this happiest time of year. Christmas is my favorite time of year, even more than the Oscars. The Oscars is my second favorite day of the year. Christmas is my favorite day of the year, and I love the season. I love everything about it. I just don't love that I'm not at home up in Canada for it, but that's okay. It's good to be here joining you guys on this Christmas Eve. Good to have you guys here. So again, today's going to be a little bit of a more casual, laid-back show. It's just you and me here today. So because of that, I am opening up the Super Chats. We don't normally have the Super Chats on the John Campea Show, but we're going to do that today, since today we're just got a couple of topics we're going to discuss. Then we're going to spend the rest of our time taking your guys' questions. So with that down, guys, we do have a couple things to get to. So let's start off with this. You know, it was with some excitement that they announced a while ago that there was a Lord of the Rings animated movie coming called Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim. And he even got a bunch of people like at animation festivals were kind of raving about it. They really liked it. But, you know, as we got closer and closer to the release, I just didn't feel a lot of buzz from a lot of people other than the hardcore, you know, Tolkien fans. And sure enough, when the movie opened, it kind of tanked. I think it made $3 or $4 million on its opening weekend. It only made about $1 million on its second weekend. All told, Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim has now made a grand total worldwide about $15 million. Not 15, $15 million. Now, that's not as cataclysmic as it may sound, because the movie only cost about $30 million to make, but still it's a bit of a disappointment. Well, here's the funny thing. War of the Rohirrim is now coming to home video 14 days. 14 days after it debuted in theaters. This comes to us from the folks over at Deadline, who write the following. Well, that was fast. The new New Line Cinema's anime feature, The Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim, which opened on December 13th to a very low $4.5 million, will be available on digital in-home on December 27th, repping a 14-day theatrical window. Guys, that's just 3 days from now. It's going to be streaming at home. War of the Rohirrim will be available on all participating digital platforms, including Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Fandango at Home, and more. Note, just because the movie's available at home doesn't mean it won't continue to play in theaters. That said, there's a competition this Christmas with Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Mufasa, Wicked, and Moana 2, and it'll be very hard to hold screens on a movie that didn't perform well. So, okay, look, there's a couple of things that I think are interesting here to kind of throw out there and discuss. One of them is the fact that nobody's going to see this movie. And you know what? It's not a total shock. I mean, listen, did I expect it to make $15 million worldwide after 2 weeks? No. But it's still not a total shock that it's not performing well. They really didn't market this movie much at all. Like, I had a number of you guys write in and say, I didn't even know about this movie except for what I heard on your show. Like, they did not market this movie well at all. And without marketing it, you can talk about Lord of the Rings, but to the vast majority of the average audience out there, Lord of the Rings is Peter Jackson's movies and the Hobbit movies. For good or for ill, that's what Lord of the Rings is to most people's head. So they don't think of animation. They don't think of that kind of thing, right? So, and it wasn't any of the characters that they knew or anything like that. So anyway, I'm still kind of surprised it's done as badly as it has. And then I was kind of shocked to find out that it was going to come to home video in just 14 days. But the article in Deadline raises a really good point. Theaters don't want it there anymore. Remember, movie theaters, they don't really care all that much about selling movie tickets, right? In and of itself, because movie theaters keep very little of the movie ticket price. They keep about 1/3. Where movie theaters make their money is at the concession stand. You guys have heard me say this before. At one of my very first CinemaCons, one of the big movie theater executives got up and he said, we are not in the movie business as movie theater owners. We are in the candy business. And he's not wrong. I mean, that's really where the movie theaters make their money. That's how they keep the lights on. That's how they pay the bills. And so if you have a limited number of screens in your theater and your whole objective is to get as many people into your theater so they can stand in the concession stand and buy soda and popcorn and Reese's Pieces, those are my 3 favorites, then what you want to do is use those screens to put up movies that are bringing people into the theaters. And if nobody's going to go watch Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, I mean, nobody. I'm not talking about a movie that just made $20 million. Oh, nobody's going to see it. The movie literally made $1 million this weekend. Like 1 point something on its second weekend. And I mean, that's the thing. The movie theaters look at that and they're like, okay, literally more people are going to see Kraven. More people are going to see Kraven the Hunter than are going to see Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. Now, one might then bring up, if they spent so little money on it, $30 million to make the film, that's practically an indie film at this point, right? $30 million for a feature film, that's incredible. They kept the budget really low. But you might ask that if they're only going to spend $30 million on the film and they're barely going to market it, why make it at all? Well, the reason they made the film at all, and look, I'm not trying to be, cynical or anything like that, but the real reason they made the whole movie at all was just so they could keep the rights. Because it's a situation, the situation with New Line and the Lord of the Rings property is a lot like the whole situation with Sony and Marvel with regards to Spider-Man. Sony has to be in production of a Spider-Man film every X number of years in order for them to keep the rights to the Spider-Man character and the Spider-Man existing tree of characters. So they got to do that. Well, as it turns out, New Line is in the same situation. The Deadline pointed out the following, and the right to do so. They said, a Lord of the Rings film needs to be made every so many years, the being 10 years ago with the third part of The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. The 6 Lord of the Rings films and the Hobbit movies combined have grossed $6 billion. So you see, New Line has to go into production of some kind of Lord of the Rings film every certain number of years. Now, they have a big Lord of the Rings film that they're working on, 2 of them actually, called Lord of the Rings, The Hunt for Gollum, that Andy Serkis is going to be directing. That's going to be live action. That's going to be much bigger budget. They're going to really put everything behind it. But they didn't have that ready in time. They weren't going to have that ready for now. So what did they do? They gathered together for a feature film, $30 million is a tiny amount of money. Tiny budget. So what they did was they pulled together $30 million and they said, that'll do. Let's make an animated film because we can't do a live action one for $30 million. Let's do an animated film. And they put together War of the Rohirrim. You know what? They didn't do a bad job putting together War of the Rohirrim, as it turns out. It's just that they didn't put any marketing in it. They didn't do anything to try to get people motivated to rush out and see it. None of that stuff. So it became difficult for them, right, to do that. But I think at the end of the day, and again, I don't mean to try to be cynical or anything like that, but it does really seem to appear that one of the main motivations for them to make War of the Rohirrim, even though a lot of people do like the film and it turned out pretty good, but it seems like their main motivation was just to keep the rights to make the movies. Because they've got, The Hunt for Gollum coming. They're going to put a lot of money into that, but in order to have the rights to make The Hunt for Gollum, they had to have a movie come out now. So that's what at least it seems on the surface. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim is going to digital VOD 14 days. 14 days after it hit theaters, in which nobody went to go see it. Do you think it's pretty understandable that the movie theaters probably aren't losing all that much sleep over taking it out? What do you think about the whole motivation behind making the film, just trying to keep the clock going and keep the rights to films? Anyway, whatever you guys think about that, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. Big Mouth Sand is saying, where did it go? It says they could have at least marketed it. Well, here's the problem. I don't think they believed that any marketing money they put into it would have made their money back. They could have put 20 million, which is that's a really low marketing budget for a feature film. But they could have put 20 million into it, but then they probably thought, is the movie even going to make 20? Are we even going to make that $20 million back if we put 20 million into marketing it? So, that's probably why they didn't. Again, it's all about what was their motivation for making the movie. And I could be wrong. By the way, this is just me speculating. I'm not saying I'm right. I could be wrong, but it seems to me like the main motivation here, considering the tiny budget, considering the non-existent marketing, considering the very quick turnaround to VOD, it seems, at least to me, pretty clear that the main motivation was just to keep the clock going so they could keep the Lord of the Rings rights to make films. Anyway, that's just my thought. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but we'll see how it all turns out. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? And lo, it was proclaimed across the land that Christopher Nolan, one of the most celebrated directors today, had a new movie coming out, following up on his Academy Award-winning film Oppenheimer. And a lot of people started to speculate who's going to be in it and what's it going to be. Some people speculated it was going to be like another outer space movie. Some people speculated with, not Inception, Interstellar. With Interstellar being back out in theaters now, that they were going to announce that the new Christopher Nolan film was actually an Interstellar 2. There was word going around out there that it was going to be a vampire movie. I have no idea where that rumor started, but there was whispers going around that it was going to be a vampire movie. And then we started to find out about people who were going to be in it. Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Zendaya, a big long cast. Well, now we know what the movie is going to be. Christopher Nolan is doing a version of the Odyssey, Homer's The Odyssey, in what is being described as a mythic action epic shot with new IMAX technologies. The good folks over Variety wrote the following. Sing to me, Muse. Details of Christopher Nolan's star-studded next project at Universal have finally been revealed. According to a new X post from Universal Pictures themselves, the filmmaker's next project is a mythic action epic shot across the world using brand new IMAX film technology. The film brings Homer's foundational saga to IMAX film screens for the first time and opens in theaters everywhere on July 17th, 2026. Guys, I want us to just mention this for a second. That is ridiculously close. That's like a year and a half away. A lot of times with these big, highly anticipated films, we find out about it and they're like over 2 years away. This thing's literally coming out in a year and a half. So they're going to start shooting this really, really soon. Anyway, they write on. Nolan has assembled an all-star lineup of actors befitting of the epic tale. Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, Lupita Nyong'o, Robert Pattinson, and Charlize Theron are set to star. what a cast. What a cast. At least two of them, or three of them are Academy Award winners. So, Matt Damon is an Academy Award winner, not for acting, but he has won Academy Awards. Anne Hathaway is an Academy Award winner. Lupita Nyong'o, Academy Award winner. Charlize Theron, Academy Award winner. Robert Pattinson will be a future Academy Award winner. Zendaya's won Emmys. Tom Holland is dating Zendaya. So kudos to everybody. Kudos to everybody. Now listen, when I hear about this, there's a couple of reasons why I love this story, okay? Why I love this story. Number one, as a mythic action epic, it addresses one of the, what I consider to be knocks on Christopher Nolan. And what I mean by that is this. Anybody who's watched my channel for any period of time, you know I adore Christopher Nolan. I love his films. He hasn't made a single film that I haven't liked. There's been some that I haven't loved, but Christopher Nolan has not made a single film that I haven't liked. He's absolutely phenomenal. One of the most celebrated. Him, Denis Villeneuve are probably the head of the class in filmmakers today. But the one knock on Christopher Nolan as a director has been, and you may think this is fair or unfair, is the fact that when you watch a Christopher Nolan film, you're kind of very aware you're watching a Christopher Nolan film. It's kind of like the same knock on another one of our great directors, Quentin Tarantino. Like, Quentin Tarantino has a certain feel to his films, and that's it. He's got one thumbprint. When you're watching a Quentin Tarantino film, there's no doubt you're watching a Quentin Tarantino film because he doesn't really do a lot of else. When you look at a lot of the great historic great directors like Steven Spielberg, the greatest of all time, that dude can do action, he can do comedy, he can do period piece, he can do fantasy, he can do movies about an alien, a giant shark, an ex-president, he can make any kind of movie. He's even done musicals, right? Whereas Christopher Nolan, although he's done Batman and stuff like that, they've had that same kind of feel. I love this story because the Odyssey presents an opportunity, I think, for Nolan to kind of step outside of his more comfortable sandbox. John, there's nothing comfortable in Interstellar or Inception. I agree, but they're very Christopher Nolan films. For me, Christopher Nolan, having the boldness to step further out, go into territory that's not really, to adapt a classic piece of literature like the Odyssey and to try to make what they're calling a mythic action epic. To me, that's Christopher Nolan, one of our greats, expanding himself even more. So I love that. Second reason that I really like this is just, I've liked a lot of the iterations. There have been a couple of iterations of Odyssey. Probably my favorite is the most loosely built one. And I'm going to see if any of you guys in the live chat know which movie I'm going to mention here. Again, it's a more interpretive thing of the Odyssey, but it's absolutely the Odyssey. Any of you know which movie I'm going to throw out there? I know there's like a 15 seconds. Not Troy. Although that's a good guess. Not Troy. David got it. Oh, brother, where art thou? That, like, oh, brother, where art thou is just like one of the great films to me. I love that movie so much. And like its overtures of the Odyssey are so clearly, plainly seen as you go through it. It's absolutely great. So now, I'm not saying Christopher Nolan is going to do like an Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, where it's going to put a skin on top of the Odyssey. I think, although nothing is out there is official, I think he's literally just going to do the Odyssey. Like, I don't personally think there's any kind of interpretation. I don't think there's going to be a kind of a skin on it like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou. I think he's straight up going to do the Odyssey, which is going to be a couple things. It's going to be interesting to see how he does it. And it's going to be really interesting to see if he can do it all in one movie. Because I know there have been a lot of people speculating, if you're going to do the Odyssey, even though it's a poem, if you're going to do the Odyssey, you're going to need to do that in several films. Other than the Batman, Christopher Nolan doesn't seem to like do things in several films. He likes to make a movie. So, and listen, if you're talking about somebody and a director trying to tackle the Odyssey, I literally think there's only 5 or 6 names in directing today that I would go, okay, I think they can handle it. I think obviously Spielberg. I think Scorsese would do a really interesting Odyssey. Obviously Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve, and Ryan Coogler. I think those are the 5 directors to me that if you said someone's doing the Odyssey, those are probably the 5 names that I would go, okay, yeah, that's going to be really cool to see. Not that there couldn't be other directors that could also tackle it and do a really, really good job with it, but Christopher Nolan's name is right up there. Nolan, obviously Denis Villeneuve. Anyway, any of those guys that I mentioned would do a really good job. So I think this could be really great. And I got to tell you guys, I'm really excited about this. Not just that we're getting a new Christopher Nolan film, and not just that it's going to be one of his most stacked casts ever, but the fact that he's doing the Odyssey. I think this is great, and it's going to be really cool to see what he does. Anyway, guys. Somebody's saying, why Ryan Coogler? If you saw Fruitvale Station, you'd know why I think Ryan Coogler would do a killer The Odyssey. They're very different films, but if you saw Fruitvale Station that he did with Michael B. Jordan, you'd know why I think he would do a killer job with The Odyssey. Anyway, that aside, question is for you guys. What do you think about this? Christopher, we now know it's official. Universal Pictures has put it out there that the next Christopher Nolan film is indeed The Odyssey, with 3 Academy Award winners, a massive fleshed out cast. This is going to be great. I cannot wait for this. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, Marvel television has been hit and miss, particularly on Disney Plus. Like, you've got a number of things that just quite haven't really worked all out. I mean, not a lot of terrible stuff. Secret Invasion was terrible. Just, oh God, I had a lot of hope for that show because I love Nick Fury, but that show was just terrible. Then you get a bunch of shows that had potential and then kind of ended up disappointing. Shows like Moon Knight, right? Number of those. Then you had a couple that really did knock it out of the park. Obviously, WandaVision, which is still the gold standard for them. But the other thing that is actually the #1 rated show that Marvel has done on Disney Plus is Ms. Marvel. Not the highest viewership numbers. Nobody's ever heard of Ms. Marvel and all that kind of stuff. Not the highest viewership numbers. But when they do a season 2, you're going to see those numbers go up. And Ms. Marvel was one of their shows, one of those rare Disney Plus shows. It's happened to a couple of them where every week the viewership went up. Ms. Marvel to me was magnificent. That was a show that charmed me and won me over immediately. And it was one of the things that was great about Ms. Marvel was it was a very different change of pace for a Marvel show. The family dynamic of it won me over. That's really the heart and the soul, I think, of Ms. Marvel is the dynamic of the whole family. Absolutely loved it. I think she was the best part of the Marvels. All due respect to Photon and Captain Marvel and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, I didn't mind the Marvels. I didn't think it was one of their better films, but I thought the Marvels was okay. Anyway, the best part about the Marvels, though, even though it flopped terribly, was Ms. Marvel. I thought she was the best part of it. Anyway, good Canadian girl, Iman Vellani, playing the role there. So I think it's one of their best series, and just with great heart, great charm. And then they brought her in at the end of the Marvels, a little post-credit scene with her and Kate Bishop. And, you know, obviously they've got some plans for her in the future. Well, now the big boss of MCU television, Marvel executive Brad Winderbaum, is saying that, yeah, we're not just going to see Iman Vellani and Ms. Marvel again, that rather she's got a big part to play in the future of the MCU, and she is, quote unquote, top of mind. What he means by top of mind, I'm not really sure, but let's go to his quote here and what he said. He said the following. Now, the interviewer for The Hollywood Reporter asked him this. He says, I'm staring at Ms. Marvel logo behind you right now, and I'm reminded of how you struck gold with Iman Vellani as Kamala Khan. What can you say about her future? And this is what the boss of Marvel Television said. He said, I love Iman. She's incredible. I love that character. I will tell you that she is certainly a big part of the MCU to me. Ms. Marvel is a really important show to us. And without going into great detail, because I don't want to spoil anything, she is top of mind. So it's going to be exciting to see where she pops up next. I don't want to go into any great detail because I don't want to spoil anything, but she is top of mind. So it's going to be exciting to see where she pops up next. All right. The popular theory and consensus seems to be that people think it's going to be a Young Avengers thing. People have been speculating for years. Nobody at Marvel has ever said it, but people have been speculating for years that we're going to see a Young Avengers, like either a movie or a Young Avengers show. And for about 5 years, I've said, I don't think so. And here we are 5 years later, and we still don't have anything like that. But I can't deny that, hey, if you're looking at everything that's been happening, it kind of maybe looks like they're setting up a Young Avengers thing. I don't think you're crazy for thinking that at all. Because, yeah, there are certainly things that have happened in the MCU that it makes it look like maybe they're leading up to a Young Avengers. I still don't think they'll do it. It's certainly possible. I don't think they will. And I certainly don't think they should. I think it would be a dumb idea. I'll straight up tell you, I think it'll be an absolute dumb idea. Dumb idea. I got people in live chat saying, well, reports are saying, let me just clear this up. Marvel has said nothing. Nobody from Marvel has said anything about a Young Avengers show. And anybody who's reporting is just saying things. Anyway, take it with a grain of salt. That's all I'm saying. Because it could happen. It could. I don't think it should. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a rather silly idea. And I don't think there's any good reason for them to do a Young Avengers. Because really, when you think about it, who is going to be in your Young Avengers? I mean, really think about it. Who's going to be your Young Avengers? By the way, that's a picture of Brad. That's the guy who's the head of Marvel TV. Who is in your Young Avengers? I mean, Ms. Marvel. But frankly, I would much rather just see Ms. Marvel season 2. That's what I would rather see. Kate Bishop? Okay. You know, I didn't really love the Hawkeye series, even though I love Jeremy Renner, and I really do like the character of Hawkeye. And I think Kate Bishop actually came across quite well in the show. I didn't like it overall, but whatever. Okay. Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop and Iman Vellani. Okay. But then what else do you got? Listen, I really enjoyed, it's not my favorite, but I really loved Agatha. I think that show was better than I thought it was going to be. But am I interested in that kid? That character? Not really. I mean, I'll see an Agatha season 2. I didn't mind the character in that setting, but do I want to see that kid in Young Avengers? Bowl cut Hulk Jr.? Do I want to see, am I interested at all in that bowl cut Hulk Jr. coming from family picnics? I'm not really interested in that. The kid from Falcon and Winter Soldier that we got to see for like a minute in that show? Not interested. I mean, that's the thing. We can talk and talk and talk. Like when they talked about Avengers, we had Thor, we had Iron Man, we had Captain America, we had Black Widow, we had Hulk. You're talking about Young Avengers. Okay, we got Ms. Marvel. Okay, I'm on board with that. Kate Bishop, I can get on board with her. But then who else? Who else? I mean, I don't care. Like, Wiccan was an interesting character in the context of the show. I don't care to see whiny Wiccan running around doing anything else. I'm just being honest with you. Again, the kid from Falcon Winter Soldier, that was fine. But again, that kid had like 2 minutes of screen time at best. And don't even get me going on Guy Gardner bowl cut wearing Hulk Jr. at family barbecues. I have no interest in that character. So anyway, I'm just saying, I really don't see any upside personally, I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm not saying other people don't want to see it. I'm not saying other people aren't interested in it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm only speaking for myself. I have zero interest in a Young Avengers because up till now, and other than maybe 2 characters with Ms. Marvel and Kate Bishop, Marvel hasn't given me any reason to be interested in this. None. No interest. They haven't built anything that makes me go, man, I want to see this team. Oh boy, I want to see this. 2 characters I like and 4 characters I really could give 2 squirts of urine about. Merry Christmas. They haven't given me anything to be excited about. So what is Brad talking about when he says that she's going to play a big part of the MCU? She is front of mind. She's top of mind. It's going to be exciting to see where she goes. Okay, so there are a couple of different options. One option is a Young Avengers project. Again, bad idea. I don't think they're going to do it. They could, though, and I don't think they should. But that definitely is one of the options, right? No denying that's absolutely one of the options. Another option, that she next appears in Avengers Doomsday. I mean, I think she's appearing in Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret War regardless. If you know, you know. I think she's going to be popping up in these because, I mean, also Marvel executives, Kevin Feige, have talked about here, you're going to see a hell of a lot of the characters pop up. And so I think Ms. Marvel is definitely going to be one of those. Another option is maybe an X-Men property. I mean, remember, near the end of Ms. Marvel, the series, somebody mentions, I've been looking at your DNA and you have a mutation. And then in the background, that little classic X-Men played in the background, right? So making, granted, a thin one, but a connection between her and the mutants, aka the X-Men. So maybe she's going to play a big role in X-Men stuff coming up. That's a possibility. A fourth possibility is that she pops up as a secondary character in another character's movie. So whether that's like a Doctor Strange 3, whether that's a Shang-Chi 2, whether that's hell, the Fantastic Four. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she gets lined up for that. That's a possibility too. Or maybe he's just talking about that they're going to be putting a lot into not Captain Marvel, but Ms. Marvel season 2. Whereas Ms. Marvel season 1, and I'm not saying this is what he's talking about, I'm saying this is just a guess. Whereas Ms. Marvel season 1 was really more kind of grounded. It was in town, in her school, about her family, all that kind of stuff. Maybe Ms. Marvel season 2 takes a big step forward and has a grander, more epic scope kind of thing. I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but yeah. And again, it is, got to keep in mind, Ms. Marvel is the number one over WandaVision, over everything. It is the number one critically rated show they've got and one of the highest rated audience scores that they've ever had. I still think it's the second best show that Marvel's done. I still think WandaVision is the best. That's just my opinion. But I think by quite a big margin, I still think Ms. Marvel is the second best show they've ever done. So what's he talking about when he says big part of the MCU moving forward? Is he talking about still on Disney Plus? Is he talking in the movies? Do we see her in the next Avengers films? Do we see a Young Avengers? There's a lot of things on the table. Whatever you guys think about this, though, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. Listen, I said today was more of a low-key day. It is Christmas Eve. But so we're going to spend the rest of our time here with the important things, taking your live comments and questions. We're going to start off. We already have a bunch of questions that were sent into our tip link. So I'm going to address those questions that got sent in earlier over the last overnight and everything. And then we're going to move over and take the super chats that you guys watching live have been sending in. So let's not waste any time and get right into it, shall we? We're going to start off here with Queen Sub Absorb, who writes 1 of 4. Hey, John, I've got another Superman theory. After watching the trailer repeatedly and seeing tons of other theories, it ties into the theme of hope and keeps the story contemporary. What if, quote unquote, super beings exist in this world, but only handle supernatural or sci-fi level threats like the kaiju shown? Superman, however, intervenes in a controversial geopolitical situation, maybe involving the US or a fictional ally, by saving people. This could cross a line superheroes in this world don't usually cross, explaining why Guy and the mob seem angry with him. People might view him as taking a divisive stance, and the arrest is set in the set photos could reflect the US questioning his loyalty, then forcing him to choose a side, even though his goal was simply to save lives. Long-winded, and apologies for all the parts, but thoughts on this or a similar idea? Well, here's the thing. It has been brought up that in the Superman trailer, which again is the 5th biggest trailer ever to drop in history, and by far the biggest one that DC has ever had, 250 million downloads of that trailer in the first 24 hours. It's crazy. But in that trailer, there have been theories about, the kid holding up the flag and saying Superman, right? I don't know. See, here, the theory I have about that is that the kaiju is attacking Metropolis and he isn't there at first because he decided to go halfway around the world and help these other people. And then damage gets done. And then he gets back and then they're able to take out the monster. But the damage was already done. And that maybe people like Guy Gardner is pissed because Guy looks pissed. Nathan Fillion looks pissed at Superman when he comes walking into that room. And Superman looks anguished, right? And people are mad at him. Maybe it's because he wasn't there at first. I don't think people are going to get necessarily mad at him just for going and helping other people. Because remember, when Guy Gardner comes into the room, Superman just got out of a battle, right? Like they just finished fighting the monster. His suit is scorched from the flames that came out of the monster's mouth and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like Superman, like nothing was going on. It's just a regular day. And Superman goes and helps some people and comes back and everybody's mad at him. I think it is directly tied into the kaiju attack. I could be wrong about that, but that's kind of my guess. Anyway, Queen Sub, it's an interesting theory and let's see if that plays out in the movie. Thanks for writing that in, man. All right. Next up, Amin writes, did you watch the Dune finale? I still haven't. I was really busy Sunday night with a lot of football. And then yesterday was a busy day for us, also with football in the evening. So I haven't watched the Dune finale yet. Anyway, what were your thoughts? Overall, I did enjoy the show. There were many moments I loved, but I felt there were too many moments where it became complex just for the sake of it. They really could have tightened things. I was really excited about Dune Prophecy. Is that the name of the show? Prophecy? Anyway, I was really excited about this Dune series because Dune 2, I think, is the best movie made in like the last 10 years. And I love the first Dune movie as well. So I was really, really excited about this show. And it's been okay. There have been elements of it, just like you, that I thought have been fantastic, like really great. But it's also been kind of, like you mentioned tightening up. I think it could have used a lot of tightening up, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of empty air time and themes that they spend more time on than they needed to. And quite frankly, the show came close to losing me. It did, but I stayed with it and I'm glad that I did. And I haven't watched the finale yet, so I am curious to see if it sticks the landing for me. So not bad. Like having, as somebody who hasn't seen the last episode yet, I'll say, it's been not bad, worth the endeavor, but also leaving me a little disappointed. Again, didn't dislike it terribly. It just left me a little bit disappointed because I was really hoping for more. But again, I'm going to watch the finale. Finales can really move the needle. So maybe if I love the finale, maybe it'll kind of change the way I look at the show overall. Maybe I'd like it a little bit more. Anyway, thanks for that. I mean, I appreciate that, man. Next up. We've got, who do we have? We have Gator, who writes, Hey, John and crew. No crew, just me today. For myself, I stopped watching the MCU a little after Endgame, and I stopped watching the DCEU after Justice League. I've kind of fallen off of comic book movies, but I'm pretty excited for Superman. Trailer was awesome. Merry Christmas. You know, there's the key thing, Gator, that I think is the most interesting data point in everything about the trailer was, and I think this is the most important thing to DC, is they need to win over the non-hardcore comic book movie fans. Because we got to remember the hardcore comic book fans represent maybe at best 5%. 5% of the movie-going audience. Maybe that much. And what they really need to do is mostly appeal to the more general audience. And one of the things that we've really heard, because you'd be surprised how many conversations I've had where people said, I didn't even know they were making a new Superman movie. I mean, I've heard that a lot. But clearly, the vast majority of people seem to really, not everybody, because, it's still art. No piece of art is going to work on everybody. That's totally fair. Not everybody loved the Superman trailer. Nothing wrong with that. But it is obvious, the statistics and the data doesn't lie. The vast majority of people seem to really like it. And most importantly for people, and most importantly to DC, it seems to be that the average movie-going audience, the people who either maybe fell off of comic book movies, aren't hardcore into the comic book movies, maybe didn't even know a Superman movie was coming, and they saw that trailer and went, yeah, we want to watch that. And that's really big for them, man. It's really, really key. Thanks for sharing your perspective, Gator. Appreciate that, man. Next up, we got Cody Hunt Films. He says, what if Henry Cavill is playing Ultraman? Zero chance of that. Absolutely none. No chance whatsoever in the world. There's no way they would ask Henry Cavill to do something like that, and there's no way Henry Cavill would agree. Oh, so you want me to come in and play something that I got replaced out of? Yeah. Zero chance. Zero chance. I mean, listen, I would love it because I'm such a Henry Cavill guy. You can just see his hand there. I still got Henry Cavill and always will have Henry Cavill, my favorite Superman, watching over my studio. But there's no way Henry Cavill would ever do that. And no way a guy like James Gunn would ever ask Henry Cavill to do that. So fun theory, but no chance. All right. Anonymous Steve, who sends in a $20 tip. Thank you, Anonymous Steve, for supporting us on that level, man. Appreciate that. He writes, hey, John, I finished The Last of Us Part 2, and wow, what a masterpiece. I can't stop thinking about it, and I think I loved Abby's storyline even more. When the girls fight in the water right at the end there, yeah, I had tears in my eyes. Can't wait to see how HBO does Season 2 and beyond now. Yeah, listen, I got to tell you guys, it's one of, every once in a while, it doesn't happen often, but I'm sure it happens to all of us. I watched a movie that I think is completely terrible and then find out a bunch of people loved it. Or vice versa. You watch something that you loved and then you find out that a bunch of people hate it, right? It happens to all of us. It doesn't happen often, but it happens to all of us. And I remember I watched like the 16-hour whatever cutscene movie of Last of Us 2. This is immediately as soon as it came out. And I was floored. I was absolutely floored by, I still think, bar none, never has a video game told a more, for lack of a better term, cinematic story as Last of Us 2 did. I was just absolutely floored by it. I couldn't believe the brilliance of it. I'm a particular fan of storytellers who try to tackle the very, very difficult task of telling stories that revolve around what pain does to people, even the best of people. It's not an easy topic to really do. It's not an easy topic to do well. And I thought Last of Us 2 was such a brilliant observation of what pain can do to people. It's also one of the few stories, video game or otherwise, that tends to explore the consequences of the actions of the hero. Right? Very few movies, TV shows, or video games really want to explore the consequences of the actions of the heroes. Last of Us ends. Joel, the first game, Joel heroically breaks in there. He now loves this girl that was a burden to him, but now he loves her. And he goes in, takes out anybody in his way to rescue her out of there and save her life. Yay. But what about the people who died? What about the people the hero kills on the way in there to save her? What about the people that loved those people that died? Because those people that die in these movies and TV shows and video games, they have families. They have people who love them. They have people who rely on them. They have children. They have parents. They have siblings. They have best friends. And just the whole notion of, yeah, one of the guys that Joel kills, we're going to tell the story of that guy's daughter. And where do you go with that? And then going over to Ellie, what happens to this wonderful character when you subject that character to immeasurable pain and loss? What does that good person become when you subject them to unbelievable pain and loss? And what can that kind of pain and loss do to somebody, even the best of people? I'll tell you what, I flat out thought that the story of The Last of Us 2 was, I'll use the word, a masterpiece. 100%. I thought it was an absolute masterpiece. I was floored by it. So, imagine my shock and surprise when I came out of that and saw all these people crapping on it. I'm like, wait, did I watch the right thing? Is this did I miss something? Like, I was shocked. When I came out of that and then saw all these people crapping on it. I just couldn't believe it, because I think it's an absolute masterpiece. And then it did go on and won all the awards, won Best Game of the Year, won all that kind of stuff. I think deservingly so. But yeah, it didn't work for everybody. But I'm with you, Anonymous Steve. I thought it was an absolute marvelous piece of storytelling. All right, next up. We've got Stephen C., who writes, "Hey, John, I just finished watching Arcane. Love Arcane. Season 2. Wow, what a masterpiece of a show. In my top 5 all time. I was looking to see if you reviewed it, and I can't find a video. Have you seen it yet? If so, what are your thoughts? And thanks." Yeah, I've talked about it many times. I've never made a dedicated video to it, but we've talked about Arcane Season 2 many times on the show. Here's the basic gist of it. So Arcane is my all-time favorite animated show. I wouldn't say it's in my top 5 favorite show of all time, but it's my number 1 favorite animated show ever. I thought season 2 was very good. It lost me a little at the end because the show became less, as we started to, navigate our way through season 2, the show became less and less about Vi and Jinx, and more about Jace and Victor. And ultimately, when you get to the finale, it's all about Jace and Victor. Vi and Jinx are really just side characters in the final big conflict of what happens. And I didn't really love that. Also, I thought the way they handled the arcane and the magic stuff was very inconsistent. Now, all that, and I still really loved season 2. I didn't love it as much as season 1, but I still really liked it. I wish it had ended a bit stronger. I wish they kept their focus a little bit more. I wish they didn't leave the arcane and magic completely nebulous, where literally anything can happen and they didn't have to explain it. but I still thought just the characters, the dialogue, the writing, the drama of it. I thought it was wonderful, really great. And again, I didn't think quite as good as season 1, but I still loved it a lot. All right. Thanks for that, Stephen. Next up, The Anonymous 2 writes, "Hey, John, have you heard any updates on The Accountant 2? Surprised we haven't got a trailer yet." I'm not. The movie's still over 4 months away. Surprised we haven't got a trailer yet. Superman comes out in July and Karate Kid Legends comes out in May. They both have trailers. The Accountant 2 comes out April 25th. Hopefully we get one soon. Those aren't good examples. I mean, listen, it used to be, not long ago, actually, it used to be that it got to the point that studios started putting out trailers for movies like a year in advance, which was pointless. And I always used to talk about this back in the day about there's no point in putting out a trailer that early. It literally doesn't accomplish anything for you. Because by the time the movie does come out, nobody remembers that. A great example of this was, what was the name of the Godzilla movie? King of the Monsters? Was that it? Godzilla King of the Monsters? I think that was it. Anyway, they played the first big trailer for that one at Comic-Con. Remember this? Like a year before the movie came out. A year before the movie came out. And they played the first big trailer at Comic-Con. And everybody's like, woo, wow. And it looked great. It had King Ghidorah on it and all that kind of stuff. And everybody's like, wow, looks so great. But it was a year before the movie came out. And by the time that movie came around, a lot of people were like, wait, that movie hadn't come out yet? That's still coming out? Wasn't that like forever ago? And it kind of tanked at the box office. Nobody went to go see it. I mean, some people went to go see it, but not many. And I think that just kind of went to the point about it. And everybody loved that trailer, but it was pointless. I think the real window for releasing a trailer should be anywhere between 3 to 5 months. I think, and it's like John Wick, the original John Wick movie didn't put out its first trailer till 30 days before the movie came out. And so I think you can do it a little closer if you want, but really, I personally think the sweet spot for putting out a trailer is 3 to 5 months before the movie comes out. Anything longer than that is kind of pointless. Listen, the Superman trailer was great. I really think I still believe they put it out too soon. As big of an impact as it had, and it did have a big impact, I think if that first trailer came out a little bit later, it would have had a bigger impact. That's just me, whatever. See, so The Accountant is still like 4 months away. Like it comes out in April, right? April 25th. So as of right now, yeah, December, January, February, March, it's still 4 full months away. I don't think there's any pressure or any exceeding need to have a trailer for that to come out, at least within the next, I think that we will get a first trailer in the next 3 to 4 weeks, but I don't think that if we go another month and a half, 2 months before getting a trailer, then I'll start scratching my head a little bit. But right now, I still think we're in a good zone. So I expect a trailer for Accountant 2, which I'm very excited about, sometime in the next 2 to 4 weeks. I think that's when we'll get one. At least that's my guess. All right. Next up, we've got, thanks for that, Anonymous. Nerdy Teacher writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John and crew. I did the maths. I've been listening to you almost every day since the AMC days. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Which represents a third of my life. If you do retire after Superman, are you going to have a huge hole? You're going to leave a huge hole in my life and many others. Are you planning on grooming somebody to take over the show? I would totally listen to a Batman Beyond crew-led show. It could be called the Beyond Campea Show. Thanks for providing joy. So to answer the question directly, no, I'm not planning on prepping anybody to take over the show for me. So whenever I do decide to step away. So no, one of the things I'm not just going to hand it over to the rest of the folks here. I'm not going to do something like that. I'm either going to probably like sell the channel or probably just sell the channel or shut it down. Will probably be what I do. I'm guessing. But again, it's a long ways off. It's a long ways off. So I won't even worry about it right now. But yeah, so again, when it does come, I will probably sell the channel or shut it down. One of the two. I'm not just going to take it and hang it over to people, though. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got Future Man 19 writes, I had my doubts about Dune Prophecy at first, but I believe the finale really stuck the landing. I'm now very excited for season 2. Some of the episodes were kind of boring, but I'm starting to see the potential that this show has and hope it continues strong for season 2. I mean, one of the great things about Dune is that the world built that the stories take place in is amazing. The Imperium and all that kind of stuff, the sisterhood, all that stuff. It's just such an amazing sandbox. Just such an amazing sandbox. So it's just, there's always going to be potential there, right? So even if season 1, and again, I haven't watched the finale yet, even if season 1 doesn't end up being a banger, the potential is still there because of this world, this rich, rich world with this incredible mythology. So it'll always have potential. So even though as of right now, I haven't loved Dune Prophecy, I would still look forward to season 2 because it's such a rich world. So yeah, I'm there with you on that, Future Man. Okay. Next up, Future Man also writes, and tips in like a $20 tip. Thank you so much for that, man. I really appreciate that, dude. Let's see. By the way, I want to thank you and the crew for helping me stay awake while wrapping presents until 4 a.m. last night. Your show always keeps me entertained, and I look forward to watching it every day. Merry Christmas to you and the crew. Oh, well, thank you so much for that, man. I appreciate that. Not a lot of Christmas present wrapping for me. Ann and I, we decided a number of years ago, because you guys know we do the Adopt a Family every year, that you guys just once again came through in spades and to help us out this year. Amazing. Just amazing. Anyway, Ann and I decided a bunch of years ago that every Christmas, instead of every year at Christmas, instead of buying each other presents, what we would do is use any of that money that we would use to buy each other presents to also put towards our adopt a family. So we've been doing that for a bunch of years, which only means I got to really step up on our birthday. I really got to step up on her birthday. But yeah, so we haven't exchanged gifts with each other at Christmas for at least 5 or 6 years. Yeah, because we decided that we divert our attention to the Adopt a Family. But again, then you really got to come through on birthdays and anniversaries. Got to come through on birthdays and you got to come through on anniversaries. Anyway, Future Man, thank you for supporting us on that level. And I'm glad we were able to help you. We're able to help you as you get through all of your gift wrapping, man. All right. Next up, we've got, don't you blame the movies writes. I have similar reservations about X-Men coming into the MCU. Ideally, I'd have them separate, but could you see a scenario where X-Men have their world and the MCU are taken/visit theirs rather than coexisting? Still means having multiverse, though. Listen, I have said from the beginning, when they announced, if you guys go all the way back, when they first announced, well over 5 years ago now, that Disney was going to be buying Fox, or 20th Century, right? When they announced all that and it became clear, well, now Kevin Feige is going to be in charge of X-Men, all that kind of stuff. I have said since day one that I think the best way to approach it is to have two separate cinematic universes, to have an X-Men cinematic universe and then have your MCU. And part of the reason for that, there were a couple of different reasons I felt that way. Part of the reason was because the MCU itself is already getting pretty damn crowded. The MCU is already getting pretty damn crowded. It's already 5 superheroes on the roof of every 7-Eleven patrolling for crime at night. Like it's getting pretty crowded. It's getting so crowded that they're having a hard time keeping up with the characters. Like, where the fuck is Shang-Chi 2? Like we literally aren't even keeping up with the characters we have. And now we're going to bring in 500 more characters. Anyway, so that was one of the reasons that I always thought they should have an MCU and they should have an X-Men universe. The second reason I felt that way is because the MCU's already been set up with no mention of mutants. And one of the big core essential storytelling narrative elements of X-Men is the history of mutations of the world, that for a generation, for decades, the world has struggled with, mutants and a humanity that fears and hates them. And that context is where a Charles Xavier comes in, where a young Magneto comes in, the development of the Xavier School for the Gifted, all that kind of stuff. Like, you can't do that properly in an MCU, so do it separately, right? So I have always felt that the best way for Marvel to handle the X-Men is to have their own separate cinematic universe where they can tell their stories, not have to worry about all the stories that are happening in the MCU, and keep them separate. That is not what they are doing, though. Like, let's just be clear. That's not what they are doing. They are going to be making one thing. They're bringing the X universe into the MCU. And listen, I've got all the faith in the world in Kevin Feige. All right. He's earned the benefit of the doubt over and over and over again. So I will absolutely give Kevin Feige the benefit of the doubt. Again, I still think they should have had them as two separate cinematic universes, but if anybody's going to find a way to make this work, Kevin Feige's the one who's going to find a way to make it work. So we'll see. All right. Next up, we've got Alazam, who writes, very excited for the new Superman movie, but have you noticed some Snyder fans online trying to ruin the hype? Some even still seriously want the DCEU back. Sorry, John, I know you like Man of Steel. No, I love Man of Steel. But could these fans actually hurt the movie? Continued. A lot of fans online, not all of them, want Gunn not to succeed and still want the old DCEU back, and spreading so much hate. Wish the DC fandom could just unite and support great movies and not get stuck on meaningless fan wars. It would be awesome. Okay, so listen, I mentioned this the other day. Hold on a second. I want to see if I can bring this up. Okay, so the other day, David Ayer, the director of the first Suicide Squad movie, right? He came out. This is how toxic this group has become. And I want to make sure everybody understands that the big majority of the people like me who enjoyed the DCEU. I mean, the DCEU failed. I'm not denying that. But with the exception of one or two films, I liked all of the DCEU. I'm not going to lie. Like, I obviously I love Man of Steel. It's the best film they did. But I like Batman versus Superman. I like Justice League, both the theatrical and the HBO version. I like Flash. I like Blue Beetle. I like Aquaman. The only one I really didn't like was The Birds of Prey, The Fabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn. I didn't like that film, whatever. But I like the rest of it. And here's the key thing. Most people, a significant majority of people who did enjoy those films, like myself, a vast majority of people who are Zack Snyder fans. I count myself as a Zack Snyder fan. Other than the Rebel Moon movies, which are total dog shit. Zack Snyder's only ever, again, aside from Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder's only made one movie I've ever not liked, and that was Sucker Punch. I like or love almost all of his other films. I think he's a great, fun, interesting filmmaker. And I always look forward to whatever his next thing is going to be. I think the vast majority of people who like Zack Snyder and liked the DCEU are not that small segment of blowhards, are not that small segment of what people call Snyder bros, the ones that are out there actively trying to hate on everything else and blah, blah, blah. Do not lump in regular Zack Snyder fans and regular fans of the DCU. Do not lump them in with that toxic little cancer group. Don't lump them in with that. Because that toxic little cancer group, they would love for you to believe that they represent everybody. They do not. They are a tiny, mouthy, cancerous, dark hole corner of the fandom. So don't lump them in, because they're different groups of people. Not everybody who's a Zack Snyder fan and like the DCEU are associated with the little cancer trolls. That being said, are they going to hurt the movie? No, not at all. Not at all. They like to think they will. They won't. And listen, nobody has to like the new Superman movie. Hell, you don't have to like the new trailer. There's nothing wrong. Like, if you watch the Superman trailer, just as a movie fan, you watched the trailer and you went, that doesn't look interesting to me. That's fair. Nothing wrong with that. Totally fair. So, no, I think this little, Urethra Explorers Club, they want you to believe they are bigger than they are. So they run their mouths as much as they can. They try to but the reality is, the thing that is pissing them off the most right now is that they see they're not having any impact. They're not having any effect. They're not having any impact. They're not influencing anybody. They can be in their little echo chamber and do everything they want, but it's not having an impact. All you have to do is go around and see like the overwhelming response. Outside of their little echo chambers, you just see the global overall response to the trailer. Again, not everybody's going to like it. Hell, I don't even know if the movie's going to be good. I have a lot of belief in it, but I don't know. There's been many movies that we have belief in, and then we watch them and they end up stinking. Maybe Superman stinks. Maybe it does. But are they really going to have any? Are they going to have any impact? No. I think one of the things, like, Warner Brothers maybe thought they had significant numbers, so Warner Brothers put up $70 million to make the Snyder Cut movie. By the way, I was proved right the whole time. I said a Snyder Cut doesn't exist. There is no completed movie ready to be released in theaters. They would have to make it. And everybody kept telling me, all the people like, no, John, Zack Snyder says it exists. It exists. No, it doesn't. It doesn't exist. They would have to spend a lot of money to make it exist. And then sure enough, Warner Brothers thought, well, let's give them what they want, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And they literally had to spend more than twice as much as what it cost to make Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim. They literally had to spend $70 million to make that film. And you know what they got out of it? Nothing. They saw no significant uptick in new subscribers. They saw no significant uptick to new acquired fan base. They saw nothing. They got nothing out of it. They made a good movie. Like, even I think that HBO version, that Max version of Justice League that they did of the Snyder Cut, that's the better version. I agree. I think it's a better version. I still like the theatrical one, but I think that's the better version. We got a modestly better version of the movie, but HBO and Max lost $70 million and got nothing out of it. It was after that they decided they weren't going to listen anymore, right? WB decided after that they were not going to listen anymore, because they tried. They gave it to them, and all they got was more vitriol. They just got more hate. They gave them an inch and they tried to take a mile. But you got to, again, understand this. Don't go around and see anybody who says that they didn't like the Superman trailer. That doesn't mean they're one of those cretins. Just because you see somebody who likes the DCEU doesn't mean they're associated with that group. Just because you see somebody who likes Zack Snyder doesn't mean they're associated with that group. Don't lump them all in together. It's a very small, mouthy, irrelevant, insignificant group of people who are just going to cry more when the movie comes out and it does well. I mean, and again, I don't know if the movie's going to be good. We'll see. But no, they're not going to have any impact. They're going to have zero impact. They're going to try, but they're going to have zero impact. All right. Next up. Let's see. Sam Fisher writes, as a massive mythology and classic nerd, hearing that Christopher Nolan's new movie is The Odyssey is so exciting. I don't think there's ever been a movie adaptation of The Odyssey. There have been. I think the closest thing was Troy, which yeesh, but even that was the Iliad. Well, there was also like, I think it was like 1911. There was a very, very old version of it. Again, O Brother, Where Art Thou is kind of an interpretation of it. It's been done, but there's never really been done, at least not in modern times, a like direct manifestation of it. So it's going to be really, really cool to see how one of our great filmmakers today, Christopher Nolan, kind of navigates that and is able to pull that off. All right. With that down, guys, we're now going to move over to the super chats that you guys have sent in. By the way, the super chats are currently open still, but I am going to turn them off here pretty quick because we've gotten a lot of super chats come in and we've already been going for well over an hour today. And I am going to want to go and just hang out with Anne and the dogs for a bit on Christmas Eve. But let's get over to it here, shall we? And get to some of these questions you guys have sent in on the super chats. We're going to start off here. Who are we starting off with? Dr. Stinky, who writes, I just want to say Merry Christmas, film loving brethren. Oh, thank you, Dr. Stinky, and a Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas Eve to everybody else as well. And thanks for being here today, dude. All right, Blue Flame Studios writes, Merry Christmas, John. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas to you. Justin D writes, to be honest, I was hoping for an original from Nolan. Okay. The thing is, though, in a way, the Odyssey really is kind of an original. I know it's not to the letter of the definition an original, but think about this. There was O Brother, Where Art Thou? But really, when has the Odyssey ever been done? And to be quite honest with you, I think I might be the last generation that actually had to read the Odyssey in school. I don't think they read the Odyssey in school anymore. I think to a lot of people, this will be a truly fresh, original thing to most people. I mean, an undertaking like this with the Odyssey has never really been done. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how they do it. So I'm all for it. I'm absolutely, completely all for it. And come on. Nolan's done a lot of originals, like purely original things. I think him taking this is bold. I think this is going to expand his sandbox. I'm really quite excited about it, to be honest with you. All right. Thanks for sharing your thoughts though on that, Justin. Appreciate it. All right. Patrick Hamilton writes, not sure if you're caught up with the new season of Silo. I'm not. I still haven't watched any of season 2 yet. I've got to get caught up on it. But it's leaving me a little underwhelmed. Still good, but not as good as season 1. Pace is a bit slow this time around for me. You know what? You're not the only person I've heard say that. I've heard other people kind of mention that, I still like it. Season 2 is good. Not quite as good as season 1. I finally got caught up on Landman. So I'm all caught up on Landman. Now I'm just waiting for new episodes to drop and stuff like that. I still got to get caught up on the finale of Dune Prophecy. I got to get caught up on the finale of Shrinking, which is probably the best show on TV right now. So I got a lot of things. And then I got to get caught up on Lioness. I still haven't started watching Lioness. I mean, I got so much TV I still got to get caught up on. But yeah, I've heard similar things to what you're saying, Patrick. So thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. Next up, Curtis Lopez writes, imagine Superman opens with him lying in the snow like in the trailer. Then you hear a voice say, yup, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. Let's go a week back. I mean, it is kind of what they're doing. Because I heard, and I believe James Gunn mentioned that what we see at the beginning of the trailer is actually what their how the movie starts. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard James Gunn say that the beginning of the trailer, that is how the movie starts. And then it's the kind of classic trope, right? Like a lot of movies use this storytelling device where they start the movie at a point that's later on in the story and then take us back to how we got to that point. But in the classic 80s way, yup, that's me. Kind of a funny story about how I got myself into this situation. Well, it started 2 months ago. You know, something like that. They've done that. By the way, I know many of you have seen this, but somebody sent this to me and I just had to share it. Hello, you will go to the Dagobah. Somebody sent me that and I put it up on my social media. I don't know why. I thought that was freaking hilarious. Anyway. Okay. Let's keep things going here, shall we? Next up, we have Jai CSC writes, Shazam, Christmas movie or movie set at Christmas? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know Shazam is not a Christmas movie. Of course, this goes back to the entire classic debate about whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Die Hard is a movie that takes place at Christmas time, but it is not a Christmas movie. If you want to argue about that, you take it up with Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis says Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, so you go take it up with him. But the debate will be eternal. I know the debate will be eternal and go on forever. All right. Big Mouth Stan writes, will Superman or Fantastic Four make more money? Whoo! You know, I don't think either are going to be a billion-dollar film per se, but I think out of the two of them, I think Fantastic Four makes more money. Again, I don't think it's going to be a billion-dollar film. I hope it is, but I don't think it will be, and I don't think Superman gets anywhere close to $1 billion. I hope it does, but both have certain things working against them, and but I think Fantastic Four makes more money. Now, let's say both movies are really good. The more interesting question becomes, will Fantastic Four 2 or Superman 2 make more money? That becomes a more interesting question if both of those first movies are really good. Then it could become closer. But my guess is that Superman just has too many things working against it right now. I think it needs to have a great first movie to really reap the box office rewards later. But that's just kind of where I'm at right now. So that's my guess. Thanks for that, Big Mouth. Next up, the TAC 3000 writes, John, when an actor plays a dual role like Jim Carrey did in Sonic 3, do they get 2 paychecks? No. Get paid more, or how does that work? No, because you're still just performing in a movie. I mean, I understand the question, but you're still just performing in a movie. In this scene, we want you to wear these clothes. Now, in this scene, you're wearing these other clothes. You're still performing in a movie. Whether you're performing as I'm a person who starts off totally sane and rational and level-headed, but evolves and becomes kind of this crazy person. Well, it's kind of like 2 different characters. Well, it doesn't matter. You're being paid to appear and act in a movie. That's it. It doesn't matter if you put on a bunch of makeup and then pretend to be another character. You're still just appearing in a movie. You pay a director what you pay a director. Doesn't matter if they're directing 3 actors or 30 actors. You're just getting paid to direct a movie. So now listen. Jim Carrey can absolutely sit down, look at the script, see what's going to be required of him. And I'm sure he said, hey, listen, for Grandpa, I'm going to have to be sitting in a prosthetics chair for like 3 hours a day, getting that makeup put on and taken off. That's a lot more of a pain in the ass, and maybe negotiated a little bit more of a salary for that. But no, you don't get paid as 2 different acting jobs. It's still just one actor, one role, one actor, one movie. You're paid to act in the movie. That's it. All right. Next up. Interesting question, though, Taki. All right, next up, Isaac Martinez writes, Happy holidays, John and crew. Thank you so much, and the very happiest of holidays to you as well, Isaac. Appreciate that. Next up, Mike Vetter sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Mike, for supporting us on that level, man. And Mike writes, help me out here, John. Why is Shang-Chi considered a big hit, but Eternals not so much? Yeah, Shang-Chi is a much better film, but both films' box office were pretty close together. Eternals 402 million, Shang-Chi 432 million. There's two different reasons. Number one, I don't think Shang-Chi is considered a hit. But it all depends on your definition of hit. Some people, when they say the word a movie's a hit, they're talking about how good the movie is and how well it's received. A lot of people, when you talk about whether something's a hit, it's strictly about how much money it made. For some people like myself, when I use the term a hit, I'm kind of meaning as a mix of the two. Some financial success, critical and audience success. Whatever. I don't think Shang-Chi was a hit because it didn't make a ton of money. It made it made a little more than a Black Adam, right? But I think perception of one being a hit and the other isn't comes down to a couple different things. Number one was you had the reigning, defending, Oscar-winning Best Director of the Year directing Eternals. So you had some expectation levels that were high. I think Eternals had a bigger budget. I could be wrong about that. Fact check me. I think Eternals had a bigger budget. But the main reason for the perception was the reception of the movie. Shang-Chi is flat out awesome. It's the best movie Marvel has done since Endgame. Yeah, it's better than No Way Home. It's better than Guardians 3. And I love both of those movies, by the way. Love them. But I think Shang-Chi is the best movie they've made since Endgame. I think it's the best movie they've done in that time. But that's just me. It's all subjective. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. That's fine. But the general perception is that Shang-Chi was a much better movie than Eternals. By the way, I really like Eternals. Every time I watch it, I appreciate it more and more. And that's fine. But I think that's why. I think that's why when people talk about Shang-Chi and Eternals, the conversation is like Shang-Chi was a hit and Eternals wasn't. Well, that's because I think it's just Shang-Chi was received better. It made a little bit more money than Eternals did, but not a hell of a lot more money. I think it just all comes down to how well the movie was received. I like both of them, but I think Shang-Chi was the better film, and I think most people agree with that. Not everybody. There's no right or wrong answer there. That's how I saw it. All right. Next up. We've got, thank you for that, Mike, and thank you for supporting us on that level, dude. Miles right. Over under 25%, we get a new Bond movie before Blade. With the drama going on there, by the way, guys, I'm going to turn off super chats in like 30 seconds here. So if you still have a thought you want to fire it in quickly, because I'm going to turn off the super chats here in a second. With the status of the relationship between the Broccoli's and Amazon, I'll say less than 50%, but I'm going to say more than 25. So I will take over 25%. Not over 50, but I'll take over 25%. All right. Next up, Andrew Brown writes, I think Sony should make a Superior Foes of Spider-Man movie. It's an actual Spider-Man comic that doesn't have Spider-Man. I don't think anybody would be interested in it. I really don't. I don't think anybody would be interested in it. And really, you can't just adapt a comic story and just directly put it onto the screen. I mean, yes, they did it for Sin City, and that worked. But that's why most comic book movies aren't direct adaptations. Even Civil War, Days of Future Past, they're all radically different from the comic books. But you could do that, Andrew, but honestly, nobody would be interested in it. I really don't think you'd find much of an audience for it. And Sony has kind of in the past taken steps to try to dangle that out there, and it's been kind of flatly rejected by the audience. Now, I'm not saying the movie couldn't be good, but I'm just saying I think at this point it doesn't seem like anybody would be interested in it. That's just kind of my thought, though. Thanks for bringing that up, Andrew. Next up, Brian Garcia sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that, man. And Brian writes, Merry Christmas Eve, John and crew. Tomorrow's my birthday. Happy birthday, dude. And Universal Studios announcing Christopher Nolan's next movie will be an adaptation of the Odyssey. Feels like a gift meant for me. Wow, I was floored. Yeah, I got to tell you, man, when I read that last night, a buddy of mine, I think it was my management, sent me the article, the tweet, if you will, from Universal stating that the Odyssey was the next thing that they were doing. I was really excited to see that. Like, really excited to see it. I think it's a great move, not just because we're getting this movie, but again, and I mentioned this earlier, I think it is a great move for Christopher Nolan. I think this is a great opportunity for him to kind of expand his sandbox and the types of movies he does. And I think it's going to be really cool. By the way, your birthday being on Christmas, it reminds me of a buddy of mine. For those of you who go all the way back to the earliest days of the movie blog with me, I've got a buddy by the name of Dave, and his birthday is also on Christmas Day. And it would always suck for him because people would always forget about his birthday, which is understandable because it's Christmas, right? So he grew up with a lot of people always forgetting about his birthday. And so I would make it a point, even though we had been out of contact for a lot of years and we live a country apart now, I try to remember every year to drop him a note to say happy birthday on Christmas Day, because again, a lot of people forget it's I wonder if you've had that same experience of people just forgetting it's your birthday because it's Christmas. Anyway, thanks for sending that in, Brian. I appreciate it, man, very much. And thank you for supporting us on that level. All right. Next up, Clever Name writes, is there a chance Nolan's Odyssey takes place across different planets and galaxies? It's Christopher Nolan. I mean, it can. I think he's going to try. I'm just speculating here, pure guess. My guess is he's going to try to do a more literal translation. Again, just a guess, but it sounds like he's not going to go sci-fi with it, more fantasy. So my guess is no, but that's definitely a possibility, Clever Name. Ill Magic writes, I'm curious to see how Christopher Nolan's style of non-linear storytelling is going to play into the Odyssey. Yeah, I mean, listen, he doesn't always do that. I mean, again, you look at his Batman films. I even think to a degree Insomnia. But look, Christopher Nolan, all these things, sound design, certain cliches, certain styles, certain approaches, linear, non-linear. I mean, none of these things, all these things are just tools. It's going to be if Christopher Nolan decides, hey, utilizing this technique in this movie is what works best for it. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but I don't think he's going to approach it going, I really want to tell this movie this way. I think he's going to look at his story that he's got, decide which filmmaking techniques and storytelling and narrative using techniques are going to best apply to it, and then go from there. So if you're going into it thinking he's going to do nonlinear, I wouldn't make that assumption. So maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But either way, Ill Magic, again, it's Christopher Nolan, right? Just the fact that he's doing it has got me excited, dude. All right. Dory Nadio just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Dory. Appreciate that, dude. It's always nice when people do that. Ill Magic writes in again and says, I'm sure the movie will open with Calypso finding Odysseus on her island. Odysseus wakes up and narrates his journey, which will have epic flashbacks, which again goes right back to what we were just talking about, the opening of the Superman trailer, right? Yup, that's me. Bet you're wondering how I got here. It's definitely a possibility they could go in that direction. All right. Alex Von Gollum writes, hey, Gio, I wasn't interested in Skeleton Crew. Oh my God, there's a new episode of Skeleton Crew tonight. That just totally made my day. I mean, I'm already happy because it's Christmas Eve, but that just totally made my day that I just realized that there's a new Skeleton Crew tonight. Anyway, I wasn't interested in Skeleton Crew at all. My thought was, for why? Never did I think that I would love it this much. The show is a triumph. Listen, I got interested in Skeleton Crew when they announced that John Watts, the guy who is the director of Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, and Spider-Man No Way Home, also just directed a really good little film called Wolves with Brad Pitt and George Clooney. Nobody saw it. Really good little movie. Anyway, so I got interested in it when they announced that he was going to be kind of running the show on that. I got really fascinated with it when they said it was going to kind of be a love letter to like the 80s Amblin Entertainment kind of Goonie kind of movies, but set in the Star Wars universe. Then I was like, okay, this could be really good. This could be really good. And then the trailers came out and I thought, okay, this looks great. But a lot of the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus look like they'll be great. I thought The Acolyte looked like it could be really good. I thought Ahsoka looked like it could be really good. I thought Obi-Wan looked like it could be really good. I thought the Book of Boba Fett looked like it could be really good. Wah, wah, right? So like I was still really invested. I was really interested. I was excited for it. But if you'd asked me how good is Skeleton Crew actually going to be, I would have said, well, I'm not so sure. Skeleton Crew has been bloody fantastic. Absolutely bloody fantastic. I hope they're able to carry it on into the second half of the show because we're halfway through it now. I hope they stick the landing, but I've really enjoyed the show so far. And hopefully they can stick the landing. All right, thanks for that, Alex. Next up, BT96 writes, are we all going to wear our red underwear on the outside when we go see Superman, everybody? Yeah, not a fan of the red underwear. Not gonna lie, not a fan of the red underwear. And you know, I saw that stupid explanation the other day about saying, oh no, you don't understand. You see, Superman wears the red trunks because it makes people feel safe and it makes them feel like people can relate with them. I'm like, I'm sorry. If I see some dude walking down the sidewalk wearing red underwear over his jeans, I do not feel safe. I do not feel like, that's an interesting looking, totally non-threatening fellow. I think I would like to hang out with that guy. It was one of the dumbest explanations. All due respect to James Gunn and David Cornsweet, but that's one of the dumbest things I have ever heard. Yeah, the underwear on the outside makes people feel more comfortable with them. They make Superman feel more relatable. I have never once thought that seeing people wear underwear outside of their pants. I've never thought I can relate with that guy now. With those Calvin Kleins outside of his Levi's, it never felt that one to me. Anyway, where are we at now? Thanks for that, BT. EJ Tan writes, hey, John, hope you're having a great day. I am having a great day so far today, thanks to you guys. Merry Christmas Eve. Anyways, for tomorrow, I am going to Castaway in Burbank, one of my favorite restaurants in LA. So excited. What's your favorite dish from there? Castaway is this fabulous, fabulous restaurant in Burbank. Because you're in Burbank, you got the Hollywood Hills and everything. And you got to drive up this windy road on this mountain, right? And then the restaurant's at the top of this. It's really a big hill, but you can kind of call it a mountain. And it overlooks the San Fernando Valley. And it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous to look at. And damn it, I just lost my spot. Give me a minute here to get myself reoriented. Anyway, it's absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. And the food is great. And it's a wonderful place to be. And I'm going to see if I can find a shot of it. I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure that Google Photos is going to find this for me. Oh, it is able to find it for me. Okay, let me see if I can bring up an interesting picture. So, like, this is a great view of Castaway. This is me and Anne out for dinner. And again, we're high up on this hill, and it's this beautiful, beautiful restaurant. And then we're overlooking the San Fernando. That's Burbank you're looking down on. And you see the whole city, and the food is fantastic. And it's just absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Here's another little shot of, they got these fire pits outside. That's a picture of us just sitting down, overlooking the city, having dinner. Let me see if I can find another good shot of us eating there. And either way, it's just a great, wonderful, just a wonderful place to eat, wonderful place to hang out. That's another time we were there. Just kind of, you can see the view from out there. Anyway, my favorite day, if you ever guys get out to Burbank, go to Castaway. It's because the food is great. The view, the ambiance is fantastic. And it's not that expensive. Like, it's not like this, you're going to spend $500 on dinner. I mean, it's upscale, but it's not like ridiculous, stupid upscale. You know what I mean? Anyway, so go to Castaway if you ever get a chance. It's really, really great. My favorite thing is I don't even know if they still have it because I haven't been there in about 6 months. But my favorite dish there was their skirt steak. Their skirt steak, fantastic. If you get a chance and you go in there, see if they've got the skirt steak. And by the way, their charcuterie boards, top notch. Order a charcuterie board, absolutely will not regret it. All right. Let's see here. Dore writes, do you think there will ever be a Stan Lee biopic? Yeah. I think it's a little too soon right now, but I absolutely think there will be. He's kind of the godfather of the biggest pop cultural movement with comic book movies and stuff like that. And he's got a very interesting story. So yeah, I do think there will be one about him. John Redcorn writes, is Craven worse than Doolittle? Yes. Doolittle's terrible. Like absolutely terrible. But I think Craven was worse. That's just me. They're both horrible though. All right. Alex Von Gollum writes, one of my favorite jokes in Deadpool 3 was, behold the head of your precious queen, Furiosa. It was so ingenious. There was a couple of like Mad Max and Furiosa jokes in the movie, actually. It's funny because Furiosa is a really good movie. But yes, that line, Alex, and many others were really, really good. All right. Next up, we've got Zachary, who writes, Merry Christmas, John. Thank you so much for being a positive inspiration. Merry Christmas, John. Thank you so much for being a positive inspiration. It was such a good message. You had to say it twice. Anyway, no, seriously, thank you so much, Zachary. I appreciate that. And I hope everybody is having a tremendous Christmas holiday right now. All right. Next up, Alex Von Gollum writes, one of two. I know it won't happen, but I want to have an episode of Kim's Convenience, where Venom's Mrs. Chen opens a shop in front of theirs, so a competition to win over / retain customers ensues. The possible shenanigans between Mr. Kim and Mrs. Chen would be awesome. Have a Merry Christmas. Guys, if there's any of you out there who haven't seen Kim's Convenience, it's one of my absolute favorite shows in the last, bunch of years. Like it's one of these Canadian shows that I kind of missed out on first because I've moved down here to the States. But Kim's Convenience is an absolute treasure of a TV show. Now, you guys right now will recognize Mr. Kim as the Republic X-Wing fighter pilot in the Mandalorian show, right? He's been popping up here and there in the Mandalorian show. And yes, that is Shang-Chi. This is the show that Simu Liu got his start in. Kim's Convenience is a Canadian sitcom show. I think it's on Netflix. I think that's where you can see it right now on Netflix. It is bloody fantastic. I don't think it's quite as good as Schitt's Creek, but seriously, the two best comedy shows on TV in the last 5 or 10 years have both been Canadian shows. Schitt's Creek, which won all the Emmys, and Kim's Convenience. If you guys haven't watched Kim's Convenience, it is like, and it's not one of those shows where you got to watch the first season to really get to know the character. The very first cold open scene of Kim's Convenience, season 1, episode 1, will totally win you over. I know the gay. And I remember I watched season 1, episode 1, opening scene, cold open, and that show completely won me over. It's okay, guys in Latch are saying it's streaming on Netflix. So again, I know many of you guys probably haven't had a chance to watch Kim's Convenience. It's utterly fucking fantastic. So fantastic. It's a wonderful show. It's got heart. Number one, it's just purely hilarious, but it's got heart. I love all the characters. Definitely check it out. Do yourself a favor. You've got some free time over the holidays. Check it out. It's just fantastic. Anyway. All right. Thanks for that, man. Next up, EJ Tan writes, just to clarify, Castaway is actually open on Christmas Day, and they're going to have a 4-course brunch experience, and their signature dish is beef Wellington. So I'm in for a big treat. I have not had their beef Wellington. Main reason is I've had the beef Wellington. Like, I've actually had Gordon Ramsay's beef Wellington at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant in the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas called Steak. Beef Wellington's his signature dish. I've had it there. I will never eat it anywhere else again. But again, have a great time at Castaway. I think you're going to have a good time. All right. Next up, Rachel Knight Online writes, Jaden Daniels, hands down, Rookie of the Year. I'm not going to say hands down. I would say he's the front runner, but there's an argument to be made for Bo Nix. We'll see. Listen, if the final 2 games of the season, if Bo Nix just balls out and Jaden Daniels has pedestrian games, it could go to Bo Nix. I'm just saying I don't think the race is over. Listen, if I had to vote right now, yes, he's the Rookie of the Year. What he's done in Washington is great, but I would not count out Bo Nix in Denver just yet. That's just me. All right. Let's see here. Lewis writes, Creature Commandos is getting season 2. Yep, they've officially announced they've greenlit season 2. And I'm enjoying the show. Have you been catching up? Episode 4 was heartbreaking. Poor Weasel. You know what? I haven't kept up. I watched the first 2 episodes. I liked them. I didn't love it. So I haven't really felt like the compulsion to rush out and make sure I get caught up on episodes 3 and 4, but I will. I will get caught up. And again, like I said, I liked episodes 1 and 2. But I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't love them the way everybody raved about it. But maybe episodes 3 and 4 will kind of get me caught up in the spirit of it. Robert in live saying, John, you're missing out. Episode 4 will break your heart. Well, we'll see. Again, I believe in James Gunn, so we'll see how that all works out. All right. Thanks for that, Lewis. John Redcorn writes, It Ends With Us is one of those films where the off-screen drama is more interesting than the film itself. The lawsuit sounds super messy. Yeah, you know what's funny? Let me be honest with you. My management guy contacted me this morning and said, you should talk about this topic. And I'm like, dude, we don't do TMZ stuff. And look, if It Ends With Us was still coming out in theaters, like if it hadn't come out yet, or if it was currently in theaters, and this behind the scenes drama stuff was going to impact the movie, we would probably talk about it because it's actually impacting a movie coming out in theaters. Beyond that, I don't give a crap about TMZ gossip rag, him versus her off-screen drama between people. I mean, I'm not saying it's not newsworthy, but not on a movie show. Not on a movie show or stuff like that. That's why we never talk about that stuff on here. Like the few times that we have discussed it, for instance, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff, that was relevant because Johnny Depp was being pulled out of the Fantastic Beasts movies, and Amber Heard had this Aquaman movie coming out. I mean, it was going to have a direct impact on those film franchises, and how would it? So we did discuss it minimally. We didn't talk about it much, but we discussed it minimally, maybe 2 or 3 times at most during the whole ordeal. But other than that, we never talk about. I mean, also there was the one thing when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and what's the guy's name from Fast and Furious? Not Vin Diesel, but the guy. What is the actor's name? Anyway, when there was drama going on between them, we talked about it because we still had Fast and the Furious movies coming. They were talking about Tyrese. Thank you. They're trying to talk like we literally had this franchise was an ongoing franchise, and now 2 of the stars of this franchise, and they're trying to get the next movie made and all this kind of stuff. Now we got so we talked about it a little bit then, but stuff like this when like, oh, these 2 people hate each other and they're suing. Not the stuff I want to talk about. It's I think it's outside of the purview of what we do in this show. Yeah, as the Ezra Miller stuff, we literally had a Flash movie coming. So yeah, we talked about the Ezra Miller stuff because we literally had his movie, The Flash, was coming out. It was a big tentpole film and all this kind of stuff. So we talked about then, but stuff like this, when it's like it has nothing to do with anything that we talk about here now. That movie's gone. It's not getting a sequel. It was never going to get a sequel. So I didn't really see much. I don't see any reason to talk about it, but that's just me. All right. Next up, we've got Anthony C. writes, over under 40% Steve wields the shield in Doomsday or Secret Wars. 100%. Now, not that he keeps the shield necessarily, but do you know how much of a cinematic moment that's going to be? When Chris Evans is back on screen, at some point, he's going to get the shield in his hands, because that's just a great cinematic moment, right? That's a great cinematic moment. And, yeah, I mean, that's great. So yeah, I think they'll definitely do that. By the way, Isaac Martinez saying the story is covered in major news like CNN and Today Show, so it's not gossip. Oh, it totally is. It totally is. The personal drama between two people and their personal business that has nothing to do with you and me is gossip. Just is. I don't care if CNN covers it. We talk about movies and TV shows, right? People's personal drama, one person having another problem with another person, that is not something that we talk about on our show. Unless it, again, has a direct impact on an upcoming movie, which this does not. It's not something I'm interested in talking. Honestly, to me, it's bottom-feeding content. That's just my opinion. I think it's bottom-feeding content. You know, like two people's personal business, they have a problem with each other. Hey, if it's impacting our movies, yeah, let's talk about it, because we're a movie show. We're not interpersonal conflict show. We don't talk about that unless it has a direct implication on an upcoming movie we're talking about. Then we don't really care about it. At least I don't care about it. I think it's dumb. Anyway, next up, we've got, thanks for that, Anthony. Simon Section says, hey, John, happy Christmas Eve. Are you familiar with the anime TV show Ulysses 31? I am not. An updated version of the Greek mythology of Odysseus that takes place in the 31st century. I would like to see Nolan do a live action version of that. I don't think anybody wants to see. I think people are going to be interested in seeing him do the actual thing. Anyway, no, I myself, Simon, and by the way, Simon sent in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Simon, for supporting us to that level, man. That's incredibly generous of you, dude. I have an appreciation for a lot of the classic anime stuff, where they're talking about Akira and stuff like that. But I'm not generally the target audience for anime. I have seen, there has been some, there absolutely has been some. John, you don't say you don't like it. You said you like this and this. I know there definitely is some stuff that I watch and I like, but for the most part, I'm not an anime guy. I'm not trash talking on anime. I'm just saying it's not for me. That's all. Very simple. Not for me. It doesn't quite click with me for most part. So there's a lot of the stuff that's out there that some people watch that I'm not familiar with, like Ulysses 31. I'm not familiar with it. Haven't watched it. Probably will never watch it. So it's just not for me, but I guarantee you there are people watching the show right now who absolutely know what Ulysses 31 are, and they're thrilled that you just brought it up. 100%. But no, I'm not thinking, I highly doubt that is what Christopher Nolan is going to base this thing on. I really doubt it. Anyway, Simon, that's just kind of my take on it and my perception. You did ask me, but thank you again for watching. And thank you again, man, for sending in that super chat and for supporting us on that level, man. We really appreciate that. All right, next up, Mr. I writes, happy holidays to you and your family and friends. Thank you so much, dude. And happy holidays to you as well. Abel writes, what are your thoughts on having Matt Reeves' Batman and James Gunn's Batman come out at the same time? Just like Oppenheimer, Barbie, thank you. I don't think James Gunn will let them come out at the same time. I don't think James Gunn will allow that to happen. I mean, they can come out within a year of each other. I think that's perfectly fine. But I don't think you're going to want them out in theaters at the same time. Now, I don't believe audiences will get confused. Wait a minute, I thought so-and-so was Batman. This is another universe. Oh, okay. You know, I think it's honestly going to be that simple. But yeah, there's not going to be a scenario in which like Brave and the Bold and Matt Reeves' Batman 2 are going to be in theaters at the same time. Because you're not going to want to have competing Batman movies, right? They'll be separated by 8 months, 12 months, more maybe. I don't know. And I think that's perfectly fine. But I don't think we're going to see a scenario, Abel, where you're going to see them in theaters at the same time. That won't happen. Because again, to your point, the Oppenheimer Barbie thing, those are the reason Barbenheimer worked is because you were dealing with two completely different kinds of movies, appealing to two totally different demographics of audience. That's a wildly different thing than literally putting the same thing out that appeals to the exact same audience. Totally opposite situation. So it doesn't really apply here. You know what I mean? All right. Next up, Super Nintendo Charmers writes, Popcorn Pop and Reese's Pieces are my favorite too. Yep. I mean, listen, I go into the theater, even if I'm not hungry, even if I'm not snacky, I have a Pavlovian response. It is so built into my genetics now that when I go into a movie theater, my mouth instantly starts watering and craving popcorn. I don't eat popcorn at home. I don't eat popcorn anywhere. I mean, every once in a while, there'd be that white cheddar smart popcorn stuff. I'll snack on that if it's around, but I'm not a popcorn guy really, but it's built into my DNA now that when I go into a movie theater, I got to have that. And every once in a while, because I really like peanut butter, I'll also grab a bag of Reese's Pieces. Also sometimes, because my wife really likes chocolate covered almonds, she'll grab a bag of chocolate covered almonds and have that sometimes too. Absolutely part of my movie going experience. No doubt. All right. Next up, we've got D Wild, who writes, much like you, I love the first season of Heroes. Loved that season. Well, as they say, you can never go home again. On a rewatch this week, it has so many plot holes and characters making irrational decisions no one would make just to advance the plot, and quite a few unlikable characters. I'm afraid it doesn't hold up to me as it once did. I did a rewatch of season 1 of Heroes a couple of years ago. I think just after I left Collider and started my own. I think I did a rewatch right around that time. To me, it completely held up. It was sullied a little bit knowing how bad the show gets later on, but other than that, for me, season 1 100% holds up. Completely does. And being the type of show that it is, I didn't want to like every one of the characters. Like, there are certain types of shows where, like a show like, say, Shrinking, that kind of show, it's kind of imperative that you really like all the characters. A show like Kim's Convenience is a show that's kind of imperative that you like all the characters. I don't think Heroes is the kind of show where you need to like all the characters, because I didn't like all of them either, but that kind of worked for the show, in my opinion. Anyway, that was just me. It worked for me. Didn't work for you, D. Wild. That's cool. But I still think it, personally, for me, I think it held up. Not so much season 2. Unfortunately. All right. Stephen C20 writes, hey, John, thank you for spending Christmas Eve with us. Thank you for joining me. You brighten my day all the time. Well, thank you for that, dude. Wish you could do this forever. Merry Christmas. Well, thank you so much. Listen, man, Christmas more than Thanksgiving, because in Canada, Thanksgiving isn't that important of a holiday. Christmas for me is the time of year that I reflect on a lot, what I've been lucky about, what I've been grateful for. And you know what? Ann and I were on a walk last night, and we had some friends of ours over for dinner the other night who are both in the entertainment industry. And they both work in film and television, this couple. And we were talking about how hard hit the industry has been by the double punch of the pandemic, then followed up by the strikes. And how a lot of the industry hasn't recovered, and how so many people, it hurts so many people and all that kind of stuff. And it made me reflect on something, if you'll indulge me for a second. I'm always aware how truly lucky that I am that I have been able to forge a career for myself doing something that I truly enjoy and that I truly love. I get to watch and talk about movies. Now, I work harder than anybody else. I mean, I work my ass off. And I always have. It's just a work ethic my dad instilled in me. And I think the people that have always worked with me will tell you I work damn hard. You might not always like everything that I do. That's fine. But I work my ass off and I've worked hard. But still, there are a lot of people who work their ass off to try to do the things they love and aren't maybe been lucky enough to be able to turn that into a career. And I have. And I'm very cognizant of how lucky I am, to use a cringy word, blessed. I've been really blessed. And I've been able to do it year after year and decade after decade. I've been doing it for over 20 years now. But where I really realized, as we were talking to those friends of ours, that even in the midst of a pandemic and even in strikes that killed a lot of people in the industry, there was a great story the other day out there. I don't know if you guys saw this. There was a great story out there about this producer who literally found out on their cell phone that they had just won an Emmy while they were dropping off an Uber Eats delivery. By the way, nothing wrong with being a gig worker and being a delivery driver. Nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's kind of a reflection of what happened in the industry. Like, there was literally a producer who found out on his phone that he had just won an Emmy while he was dropping off an Uber Eats thing. I am so aware of how lucky I am, that even though it created some very difficult times, that we were able to survive even through the pandemic when a lot of people in entertainment weren't able to, that we were able to survive through the strikes when a lot of people in the industry weren't able to. And we've been very, very lucky. And the fact that I've got to do this and build this kind of career for myself, I will always be very, very grateful and exceedingly happy. And yeah, I've loved what I've been able to do. And thank you so much for being on the journey with me. And I really appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. And happy holidays to you as well. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got, who we got? D Men, who writes, excited for the Odyssey. I still revisit the old early 2000s TV version with Armand and Asant, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, as Odysseus. It's actually aged well acting wise. I gotta tell you, man, it's been a long time. Oh, you're talking about the early 2000s TV series. I don't think I've ever watched that. I don't think I've ever, I don't even think I'm really aware of it. Maybe if I saw an image of it, I go, oh, that. But honestly, it's not hitting me off the top of my head, to be honest with you. All right. Thanks for that, dude. All right. Next up, Antoine writes, where are we? Okay. Is the best interpretation of the Odyssey by Franco Rossi? If that is the one, hold on a second here. If that is the one, pull this up. Oh, I got it wrong. Pretty sure I've got it wrong. Oh, the 1968 miniseries. I am aware of this one, but I have never watched it. I am aware of, if what you're talking about is the 1968 miniseries, I am, unlike the TV series that the last person just asked about, which I wasn't even aware of. This I am aware of, but I have never seen this one. It is it is Italian. It is an 8-episode European TV miniseries broadcast on Italian state TV. So I am aware of that one, but I have personally never seen it. So I cannot give you an opinion as to whether I think that's the best interpretation of it or not. Again, my personal favorite, granted, it has a heavy skin layered over top, but it was still "O Brother, Where Art Thou?" But, you know, whatever. That's just me. All right. Next up, Antonio Ortiz writes, longtime listener, first-time commenter. Thank you for being here, man. I just want to say thanks for the years of entertainment. Oh, well, thank you, man. And may you have a great holiday as well. It is that time of year to be grateful for stuff. And I'm very grateful for guys like you who have been around, whether you've been commenting or not, being a part of our show. So thank you for that, dude. Appreciate it. All right, next up, Tohitter writes, John, happy holidays. You were wrong, sort of, about the viewership of the Superman trailer. Do you think the massive interest means 800 billion? You probably meant million. Plus worldwide gross for this movie, given it is a good movie. I still don't think so. I mean, listen, I'm thrilled to see how many people watch the trailer. I really am. And it is true that it is now a top 5 most viewed trailer ever. And it is also true that every other of the top 5 most trailer viewed movies ever have all made over $1 billion. Every single one of them. All of that is true. I still don't think this movie makes over $800 million. I just think there's too much working against it. Now, we're saying all this having not seen the movie. I mean, if the movie is like one of the greatest films ever made in the last 30 years, well, maybe then we readjust our assumptions at that point. But like right now, like I'm saying all this having not seen the movie. You haven't seen the movie. I haven't seen the movie, right? So that's going to be a big part of it. The big part of the success or failure of the Superman movie is going to be straight up how good or bad is it? But yeah, in general, and I hope I'm wrong. I will throw a party if I'm wrong. I'll be so happy if I'm wrong. But no, I just think there's too many other things aligned against it right now. The background of it, the failure of the DCEU, the fact that so many of the average movie-going audience have given up on the DC product, all that kind of stuff. I just think it all adds up to it not being able to make 800 million. Although it can, if it's really good, it can set up success for the future of the DCU. So other films can make 800 million, 900 million, maybe $1 billion. So I still don't think it will. I hope I'm wrong, but I still don't think it will. For now, let's see what happens once we see the movie. All right. Let's see. Dallas Hawes writes, John, do you recall Joe Pesci in Michael Jackson's Moonwalker? Pure art. I do not. And it's been a long time since I've watched Moonwalker. It's been a long time since I've seen that, but I do not recall that. Now I'm going to have to go back and find it and take a look at it. All right. Let's see here. Ishmael Montoya writes, oh, was he the bad guy? Joe Pesci was the bad guy in it? God, it's been a long time since I've watched that. Okay. Anyway, Ishmael Montoya writes, hey, John, Merry Christmas. Are you going to Canada this year? Yes, but not during Christmas. We're going to go in January. Also, have you decided on an opening box office for Superman? I'm thinking 100 million. God bless you and your family. Appreciate all your work. I mean, the movie is still 7 months away. It's way too early to be guessing on opening weekend box office. We got to see all the marketing campaign. We got to gauge the buzz amongst the fan base going into it. We got to see early reactions and reviews. So it's way too far. I could pull a number out of my ass and throw it out there. 85 million. I could do that, but it's baseless, right? All we've seen is one trailer with no dialogue other than home, take me home. That's it. That's the only dialogue in that entire trailer. Let's get a little bit closer. Let's get a little bit closer to the movie. Because again, we still got multiple new trailers, TV spots, initial reactions, gauging crowd buzz, all that kind of stuff. And just frankly, right now, we're way too far away from the movie coming out to even throw out a remote guess. 800 billion. There you go. That's my guess opening weekend. But it's pointless and meaningless. Let's get a little closer before we start taking those guesses. All right. Thanks for that, Ismail. Appreciate it. The Rover producer writes, Merry Christmas, John. Thoughts on Venom 3 watching today? Well, I've talked about Venom 3. I didn't like it. Now, I am somebody who loves the Venom movies. I loved the first one. I quite enjoyed the second one. The second one's not as good as the first one, but I quite enjoyed the second one. The third one for me didn't hit. I didn't think it was garbage. I didn't think it was like Craven or anything like that, or Madam Web or Morbius. I didn't think it was that bad, but yeah, it had its moments. Some of the action was really good. Tom Hardy's always good. But yeah, for me overall, they weren't able to stick the landing with Venom 3. Clearly I like Venom. I got this, my ugly Christmas sweater, Venom sweater on, but yeah, didn't like it. I didn't love it, unfortunately. All right, next up. NN12 just sends in a super chat badge, as does Mark W., as does Miko Swayan. And that's it. I had turned off the super chats a while ago. That's it, guys, for all the questions today. And you know what? Even though that's all the questions that we've taken in, I think I'm going to take just a couple of extra minutes here. I'm going to take a couple of extra minutes. So if you guys have a question in the live chat, do this. Look what I'm typing in the live chat. If you have a question for me, and I'm not going to take all of them, I'm just going to randomly pick a couple, but put all in capital letters, question, colon, and then put in your question. That way I know you're actually asking me a question and not talking amongst yourselves. Let's see here. WNN is asking, question, what changes should be made to Dune Messiah? I think several big ones, especially with the ultimate fate of Paul Atreides and stuff like that. It's just, that's fine in the books. And I don't even think it works all that great in the books, but I just don't think the movie audience, it's going to work with the movie audience as much. But again, we'll see. It's mostly to have stuff to do with Paul though. Let's see. Nick writes, what movie or character would you like to see in the DCU? I mean, it's just a standard run of characters, right? Like we want to see Batman, we want to see Superman, we want to see Wonder Woman, we want to see Aquaman. I mean, Lobo is a big one, but I think we're pretty much guaranteed. I'm guessing we're pretty much guaranteed that we're going to get Lobo, because I think that's going to be Jason Momoa. Okay. Let's see. Jack writes, question, do you think Zack Snyder's next movie will be better than Rebel Moon? I can't imagine a possibility of it being worse. Couldn't possibly be worse. Let's see. Filmologia writes, question, if Ben Affleck were to direct a DCU movie, what would it be? Would it be Batman? That's his character. Not his character. That's what he played. I mean, that's his favorite character. I would love, because remember, he wrote a script. And there are DC comic insiders who read it and said, this is the best Batman movie script ever written. And it never got made. So I'm guessing if he were to do one, it would be a Batman movie. Let's see. Pafsmear writes, which X-Men or which Xmas Christmas movie is your yearly rewatch tradition? When I'm at my family's place, there's a couple. For some reason, Wizard of Oz seems to be a Christmas movie in our family. But also Alistair's Christmas Carol. That's the one that one way or the other is always on TV at my family's house when it's Christmas time. Let's see here. Question, over or under that ScarJo is in Doomsday? I won't say 0, but I'll say under 40%. But I will say over 40% for Secret Wars. Over 40% for Secret Wars. Let's see. Haunted Autumn says, question, what is the one place you have always wanted to visit but haven't been? My heritage, Italy. I've never been to Italy. Anne's been to Italy. She's been there several times. I still have family in Italy. My dad came over on the boat with his dad from Italy. My name is Giovanni. I'm Italian. I've never been to Italy. That's the one place I've always wanted to visit, Italy. Let's see. I'm going to take one more question. All right. Sir Malston writes, Skeleton Crew finale prediction. Ooh, I mean, that's hard because we're only halfway through the show, right? We're only halfway through Skeleton Crew right now. Like we still got 4 more episodes to go. So I have no prediction. Look, right now, my general theories are that the captain of that ship that they're in will reappear, and that something with Adden will tie into maybe the rise of the First Order. Yeah, maybe. I'll take one more here. Calm Down Rich writes, Landman or Penguin? Penguin. Landman's really good. I'm really enjoying Landman. It's a little preachy. Like, it seems like every 10 minutes they've got to have some dialogue exposition that just is totally preachy. Granted, most Taylor Sheridan shows have a bit of that, but they seems to be pretty heavy-handed in Landman. But I still really love the show. I think it's great. But if I had to pick watching Penguin or watching Landman, it's Penguin all day, every day. I'm loving Landman, but Penguin all day, every day. All right. With that down, guys, that'll do it for today's special Christmas Eve solo installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and making this little show a part of your day. May you guys have a wonderful Christmas Eve and an absolutely fabulous Christmas Day tomorrow. The regular full crew will be back on Thursday. We'll be doing a regular John Campea Show on Thursday. I might do a quick video in between courses tomorrow, but probably not. I'm just saying the possibilities there, but probably not. But either way, the full show will be back on Thursday. We'll look forward to seeing you then. So big thank you to everybody for joining me today. I know you had a lot of other things you could do, so thank you so much for spending some time with me. That'll do it for us for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. And until next time, my friends, Merry Christmas.